My sister told everyone I was mentally unstable after I confronted her affair. So I posted the screenshots and watched her fiancé cancel everything. I'm a 27-year-old woman, and for as long as I can remember, my older sister, Hannah, has been the golden child of our family. She was the kind of person everyone gravitated toward: confident, charming, effortlessly beautiful. Even when we were kids, teachers would gush about how polite and talented she was. Meanwhile, I was the moody one, the quiet one, the one who was always too sensitive or too stubborn for my own good. Our parents never said it outright, but I always knew who their favorite was. When Hannah got straight A's, they framed her report cards. When I won a regional art competition, my mom smiled politely and said, "That's nice, dear." Before changing the subject to Hannah's upcoming debate finals, it didn't matter what I did. I was always second place in a race I never signed up for. I remember once, at dinner, I told my dad I wanted to study graphic design. He sighed and said, "That's not a real career, honey. Why can't you be more like Hannah? She's practical." Hannah laughed softly like it was nothing, but that little smirk told me everything. She liked being the standard I could never reach. Still, I tried. I told myself that family mattered more than fairness. I learned to swallow my resentment, to congratulate her, even when it hurt, to be the peacekeeper. Holidays, birthdays, even casual conversations, everything revolved around her, and I played the role of the loyal sister. I thought that maybe if I stayed kind, they'd see me differently someday. But I was wrong. I didn't realize back then that Hannah's perfection wasn't just about being adored. It was about control. And one day, she'd go further than I ever imagined to protect that image she'd built. When Hannah got engaged, it was like my parents had won the lottery. I still remember that night, the dining room glowing with candles, the table covered in rose petals, and everyone crying happy tears as she flashed that diamond ring like it was a crown. Mark proposed. She squealed, and my mom screamed like she was announcing royalty. Dad hugged her so tightly, it was like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. Mark was perfect. That's the only word I can use. He was polite, grounded, and genuinely good-hearted, the kind of guy who looked people in the eye and actually listened. He worked in finance, always well-dressed, always smiling. When he first shook my hand, he said, "Hannah talks about you all the time," and I wanted to believe that meant something good. The engagement party was held at my parents'. House fairy lights strung across the backyard, champagne glasses clinking, and people whispering. They're the perfect couple. I helped with everything: decorations, invitations, even picking the floral arrangements. Mom kept saying, "You should take notes. Maybe you'll get your turn someday." Like my life was just a waiting room for hers. But Mark, he was different. He actually treated me like a person. He'd ask about my job, my art projects, even joke that I had a better sense of humor than Hannah. I'd laugh it off, but something about the way he said it felt real, like someone finally saw me. Still, the spotlight was firmly on her. She loved the attention, posting engagement photos, countdowns, and couple goals captions that made everyone swoon. I told myself she deserved it. After all, she was happy, right? But deep down, I felt something shift, a quiet unease I couldn't name yet. Like the perfect picture was too smooth, too flawless, as if a single crack could shatter everything. A few months after the engagement, I started noticing things that didn't quite add up. It began small little moments that felt off but were easy to dismiss, like the way Hannah would suddenly step outside during family dinners to take a work call, or how she'd tilt her phone away when someone walked by. Mark never questioned it. He trusted her completely. That blind faith in her made me uneasy. One Sunday afternoon, we were having brunch at a cafe near the lake. The sun was warm, and Hannah couldn't stop smiling at her phone. She kept giggling, typing fast, and ignoring half of what I said. When I teased, "Who's making you smile like that?" she glanced up sharply. "Just work," she said too quickly, slipping her phone into her purse. Her tone was light, but her eyes gave her away, that flicker of panic, before she smiled again. Later that night, as I was cleaning up the kitchen, I noticed her phone buzzing on the counter. A preview flashed on the screen. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." The name said Ryan. My stomach dropped. I didn't know any Ryan when I asked her about it later. Pretending to sound casual, she froze for a second before smirking. "You're being paranoid," she said. "It's a coworker. He sends everyone You really should stop overanalyzing everything." Her words stung more than they should have. Maybe because I wanted to believe her. I told myself I was reading too much into it, that not every text meant something sinister. But that night, lying in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. It wasn't jealousy this time. It was instinct, that quiet whisper in the back of your mind that tells you you've seen the beginning of something terrible. It happened 2 weeks later, the moment that turned suspicion into certainty. I was sitting on my couch, half watching a show, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Hannah, or so I thought. But the message wasn't meant for me. It said, "He's starting to get suspicious. We need to be careful." My stomach twisted so violently I thought I'd misread it. I stared at the screen, reread it a dozen times, and felt my hands go cold. I called her immediately, trying to sound calm. "Hey, I think you sent me something by accident." There was a pause, then her voice came back sharp and shaky. "What are you talking about?" she said, too fast. I told her the text. Silence. Then she laughed, forced, brittle. "Wow, you really are paranoid, aren't you? You need to relax." And then she hung up. That night, something inside me snapped. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think. The next morning, while using the shared family tablet to check my email, I noticed her social media account was still logged in. My chest pounded as I told myself not to look, that it wasn't my place. But curiosity and dread won. I opened her DMIs, and there it was. Flirty messages with a man named Ryan, dates, inside jokes, pictures, even hotel bookings under his name. I scrolled through line after line, my heart sinking with every message. "You looked so beautiful today. Can't wait for next weekend." Mark's clueless. My fingers trembled as I took screenshots, not out of malice, but out of disbelief. I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. When I finally shut the tablet, I sat there in silence, shaking. I'd uncovered something ugly, something I couldn't unsee, and now I had to decide what to do with it. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The next evening, I asked Hannah to meet me at a small cafe near our old high school neutral ground, quiet enough that she couldn't just storm off without being seen. She walked in late, dressed like she'd stepped out of a magazine, her perfume trailing behind her like confidence itself. "This better be important," she said, sliding into the seat across from me, scrolling her phone as if she had better places to be. My hands were shaking under the table. "It is I," said. "Hannah, I know about Ryan." Her thumb froze mid. Slowly, she looked up, eyes narrowing. "Excuse me?" "I saw your messages," I continued, voice cracking despite my effort to stay calm. "The hotel receipts, the pictures. You've been seeing him for months, haven't you? While planning a wedding." She leaned back in her chair and laughed, this sharp, disbelieving sound that made my skin crawl. "Oh my God, you actually went through my stuff. That's pathetic, even for you." "I didn't plan to," I said quietly. "You sent me that text by mistake. She cut me off, slamming her cup down. "You had no right. You're obsessed with ruining everything good in my life. Just because no one cares about your boring little world doesn't mean you can destroy mine." People were starting to look. My face burned. "Hannah, you need to tell Mark the truth," I said, my voice trembling. "He doesn't deserve this." Her smile vanished. Her voice dropped to a cold whisper. "If you say one word to him, I'll make sure no one ever believes a thing you say again. Do you understand?" She stood up, eyes blazing, and walked out like nothing happened, leaving me sitting there, stunned, surrounded by the quiet hum of people pretending not to stare. And in that moment, I realized my sister wasn't just lying. She was ready for war. 2 days after that confrontation, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls. Dozens of texts. Most were from family members asking if I was okay. My cousin left a voicemail saying, "We're all really worried about you. Hannah told us you've been acting unstable." That word hit me like a punch to the chest. Unstable. At first I thought I misunderstood. But then the messages kept coming from my aunt, from an old family friend, even from Mark. "Hey," he said softly over the phone. "Hannah told me you've been struggling lately. I just wanted to check if you're getting help." His voice was kind, but every word felt like another layer of disbelief crushing me. I asked him, "What did she tell you?" He hesitated. "But you've been seeing things that aren't there. That you accused her of cheating because you're under a lot of stress." For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. "You think I made this up?" I whispered. He didn't answer. The silence told me everything. That night, I saw it for myself, a post Hannah had shared on Facebook, full of vague mental health awareness quotes. She'd written, "Sometimes love means standing by family, even when they lose their way." The comments flooded with sympathy for her, people calling her strong, brave, compassionate. My parents called me soon after. My mom's voice was cold, clipped. "What did you say to your sister?" "She's in tears. You need to apologize before you ruin her engagement." I tried explaining. I told them about the screenshots, the messages, the affair, but Dad just sighed. "You've always had a wild imagination," he said. "Please, for once, stop causing drama." I hung up, shaking. Somehow, Hannah had flipped the entire story in just 48 hours. She wasn't the liar anymore. I was. The next few weeks were a blur of silence, whispers, and humiliation. Everywhere I turned, someone was looking at me like I was broken. My own parents stopped calling, except to send passive-aggressive texts like, "We love you, but please stop creating chaos." I'd try to call Mom, but she'd always say she was busy comforting Hannah. My name became taboo, the unstable sister. The jealous one, the liar. Hannah, meanwhile, was thriving. She was posting pastel-toned engagement updates, captioned with things like, "Real love survives everything." The comments section read like a shrine, people cheering her on, praising her strength, calling her an inspiration. And every post felt like a dagger. She was rewriting reality, and everyone was eating it up. One night, I saw a message from my aunt in the family group chat. We should all pray for her mental health. Nobody said my name, but they didn't have to. The pity burned worse than the anger. I tried defending myself once, typing out a long message explaining everything, but Mom deleted the chat before I could hit send. Mark stopped reaching out altogether. I'd see him comment on Hannah's photos, calling her my everything, and I'd feel sick. It was like watching a car crash I couldn't stop. There were moments when I actually started questioning myself, wondering if I'd overreacted, if maybe Hannah was right and I was too emotional. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating, and avoided my phone altogether. The walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in, thick with the echoes of things I wanted to scream, but COULDN single quotes T. One night, staring at the screenshots I'd hidden in a folder, I whispered, maybe I should have just stayed quiet. But even then, deep down, a flicker of anger still burned. A small, defiant spark that refused to die, because no matter what anyone said, I knew the truth, and one day, everyone else would too. It all came to a breaking point one Saturday night. I was sitting alone in my apartment, half dressed in pajamas, scrolling through social media like a ghost haunting my own life. Then I saw it. Hannah had posted another photo with Mark. They were at a wine tasting, smiling like the world was perfect. Her caption read, "Surround yourself with love, not negativity." The comment that pushed me over the edge was from our cousin. "You're handling everything with such grace." Not everyone would be this strong with a mentally ill sister spreading lies. I don't even remember standing up. I just remember shaking, that kind of full-body tremble that comes when anger and heartbreak mix into something poisonous. I opened the folder on my computer. The screenshots, the dates, the receipts, all of it. Every line of proof she'd hidden behind her perfect smile. For hours I stared at them, hearing her voice in my head, "No one will ever believe you." But I realized something. She wasn't wrong because I didn't have proof. She was wrong because I'd been too scared to use it. So I started writing. Not out of vengeance, but desperation. I wrote everything: the accidental text, the confrontation, the threats, the lies. I attached the screenshots, time-stamped and clear, and I didn't twist a single word. My hands were steady for the first time in weeks. When I was done, I reread the post 3 times before hovering over share. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd throw up. And then I clicked it for a few minutes. Nothing happened, just silence. Then my phone buzzed once. Then again, notifications exploding like fireworks. By the 5th minute, I realized the truth wasn't just out there, it was spreading fast. Within an hour, my post had hundreds of reactions. By the next morning, it was everywhere, shared by mutual friends, old classmates, even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. The screenshots were clear, the dates lined up, and the truth was undeniable. Hannah's flawless image began to fracture in real time. comments flooded in. Wow, this is disgusting. Poor Mark. He deserves to know. This is what happens when you worship fake perfection. I sat frozen, watching it unfold. My heart was pounding, not from guilt, but from a strange, terrifying relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the liar. People finally saw. Then my phone rang. It was Mom. "What have you done?" She screamed, "Do you have any idea how humiliated we are?" Her voice cracked like she was the victim, not me. "Delete it right now." Dad's voice echoed in the background. "You've destroyed this family." But before I could even answer, I got another call. Mark. His voice was low, quiet, but steady. "Is it true?" he asked. I didn't sugarcoat it. "Every word," I said. There was a long pause, then a shaky breath. "Thank you for telling me," and he hung up. Within hours, Hannah deleted her accounts. Mutual friends started messaging me privately, some apologizing, some just shocked. My inbox was full of people saying they'd always suspected something was off about her, but never dared to say it. Meanwhile, my parents kept calling, begging, yelling, blaming. "You've ruined her life," Mom cried. But for the first time, her words didn't hurt, because deep down, I knew Hannah had ruined it herself. The chaos was overwhelming. But beneath it all was something I hadn't felt in years: validation. For once, the truth didn't just exist, it had power. 2 days later, I got a message from Mark. It wasn't long, just a simple, "Can we talk?" My hands trembled as I typed back. Of course. We met at a quiet park near his apartment, the kind of place where everything feels heavier because it's too peaceful for bad news. He looked different, tired, hollow-eyed, but calm. When he saw me, he nodded once, like he'd already made up his mind. "I spent the last 48 hours going through everything," he said. "The screenshots, the messages, the hotel receipts. It's all real, isn't it?" I nodded, barely able to speak. "I didn't want to hurt you, Mark. I just couldn't watch her lie anymore." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I kept telling myself she was stressed from wedding planning, that she'd changed because of pressure. But when I saw her messages, I realized she'd been gone long before I even proposed. There was this silence between us, not awkward, just heavy. Then he said quietly, "I called it off. The wedding. Everything." I blinked. "You did?" He nodded. She tried to deny it at first. Then she blamed you. Then she broke down, said it was a mistake. But once someone shows you who they are, you can't unsee it. He looked me straight in the eye. "You saved me from marrying a stranger." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to cry, part of me wanted to scream, and part of me just wanted to breathe for the first time in months. When he left, he turned back and said, "She told everyone you were crazy. But it turns out, you were the only one who wasn't." I stood there in the fading light, realizing the truth had finally won, but it came with a price neither of us would ever forget. In the days that followed, my world went eerily quiet. Hannah had vanished from social media entirely, and the same relatives who'd called me unstable were now messaging privately. "We're so sorry for believing her," or "We should have known better." It was strange how quickly sympathy replaced silence. The same people who'd turned their backs on me were now dissecting Hannah's downfall like it was gossip. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. My parents, though, were a different story. Mom refused to speak to me for a week. When she finally did, it was through a curt phone call. "You've humiliated this family," she said, her voice trembling. "You could have handled it privately." I wanted to laugh at the irony. "Privately?" I said. "You mean like when she called me mentally ill? When you all ignored me?" There was silence on the line. Then she whispered, "She made a mistake, but you destroyed her life." For once, I didn't cry. "No, Mom," I said quietly. "She destroyed mine first," and I hung up. Dad sent a text the next day, a single line that said, "We'll always love you, but we can't undo what's been done." I didn't reply. Mark moved out of the apartment he'd shared with Hannah. He sent me one final message: "Thank you for being brave when no one else was." I think that was the closure we both needed. As for Hannah, I heard she took time off work and moved to a different city. Some relatives say she's recovering, but I don't ask. I don't stalk her pages. I don't care to, because for the first time in my life, her name no longer dictates my peace, and that more than revenge or vindication felt like real freedom. Months have passed since everything fell apart, and sometimes I still wake up expecting chaos. Another call, another accusation, another lie to fight. But instead, there's silence. Peaceful, steady silence. I moved to a new apartment across town, closer to my art studio, and for the first time in years, the walls don't feel like they're listening. My mornings start with coffee and sunlight, not anxiety and guilt. Therapy helped more than I ever expected. My therapist told me, you spent your whole life trying to earn love from people who only offered it when you were small enough to not threaten them. That sentence broke me, and then it rebuilt me. I stopped trying to prove I was good, or right, or enough. Now, I just am. I still think about Hannah sometimes, not out of hate, but out of wonder. How someone could twist love into manipulation so easily. I heard she's living quietly, avoiding everyone who once worshipped her. Maybe she's learned something from it. Maybe not. But that's not my burden anymore. A few weeks ago, I got a message from Mark. Nothing heavy, just a simple, "Hope you're doing well. You deserve peace." It made me smile. Because, somehow, after all the lies and noise, peace is exactly what I found. Sometimes I visit my parents, though the air between us is still heavy. They avoid saying her name. I don't bring it up. I've accepted that closure doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it's just the absence of pain. If I've learned anything from all of this, it's that truth doesn't need permission to exist. It just waits, patient, steady, until someone brave enough speaks it out loud. For years, I was the black sheep, the difficult one, the unstable one. Turns out, I was just the only one who refused to live inside a lie.